Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Christine and this is Conscious and Cute, and today's video has been requested on Instagram. I'll be showing you how I shop for spices and herbs and also how I store them and give you some tips to do that all sustainably. Now, if you don't follow me on Instagram already, like, what are you doing? I always ask questions on Instagram. I also ask if people have any questions for me, and I can answer them in a video. And some people were wondering how I go about getting my herbs and my spices zero waste or as sustainably as possible. And I have been kind of getting a bigger stash of herbs and spices. I've been getting into it, learning more about it. And since I just updated my spice rack tremendously, I thought it would be a good time to show you all. So basically what I did is I go zero waste shopping at our local zero waste store, and yes, I am very blessed to have one locally, and I know not a lot of people have that, and that is why I also talk about a different alternative, which is our local spice store, or you can go to a spice stall on a market. And I know most people have this close to their home because there's markets everywhere around the world, and you can get bulk spices or almost bulk spices at a lot of places. The bulk spices I get there, you can either take your own container or you can buy them in these little packages. Let's see, I have still one little package and they look like this. Now I realize that this is not at all zero waste, but the cool thing about this is paper, which is completely recyclable, and the packaging, if you wash it out, it can be recycled. If you bring it to your local recycling park, or some towns have like a curbside pickup of this type of paper, or I've heard in America it can also be picked up by TerraCycle if I'm correct, but I'm not sure about that. But you can look into recycling programs like that, or you can just be sad and make a little bit of waste. But compared to the classic containers like these, which I have reused, you're obviously using way less resources. You also have to think about transport. And what is also very interesting is that you can buy organic spices, which is also healthier, and you're supporting organic farming. The spices at my local zero waste store are organic, which is cool. And then another thing I take into account obviously is these spices or these bottles used for spices are pretty heavy and they take up a lot of place in transport. That's one thing, but also you're buying these at supermarkets, so you're really buying into the whole mass production thing, whereas buying spices from a local store or market, you're supporting a local small business, and I think that is super important, and it's a really big aspect for me in the sustainable lifestyle. And I know for a lot of people it's being completely plastic free or being completely zero waste, but for me I think that is more important, because technically you could buy a new one of these and it would be glass, or you could reuse it and that would be zero waste, but then you're buying it from the supermarket again and you're creating more and more containers, and like, where are they gonna go eventually? So I have decided to reuse the ones I have, and I've also been reusing some I got from other people like my parents. But for now my spice collection is pretty much set. I think I don't want that many other things. So I'm also not going to be buying any new containers. I'm not going to be asking my friends for any new containers. But what you can do if you find yourself encountering more empty containers is do what I do and get your friends to be zero waste. So now I'm convincing all of my friends to start a zero waste spice collection or get their rice in bulk or whatever. Once you've kind of figured out your own situation, you can kind of move on to your friends and family and get them to be more zero waste. So in the end, you don't waste any containers like that. And as we all know, I hoard containers. I have a whole video about that. But you will see I have put mine to good use here in my spice rack, which I will show you in just a minute. But I also have some clips of me going shopping, which I will talk about a little later on. And I will also talk about how I clean my containers. And I'll also have a blog post up about that with some more instructions and pictures to make it easier for you. And I will talk a bit about how I label them and why I choose to do that. But for now, I will kind of show you the end result. It's not completely finished, but if I have to wait for it to be finished, this video is never going to be live. So let me just show you. So here you can see the overview of my spice rack, and I'm so happy with the result. As you can see, it's still a little messy. We have this rack on the bottom here, which still needs to go up, but I'm waiting for someone to come by with a drill because we don't have one. But yeah, these top ones I have reused from old spices that either I had or my parents had. These jars I got from my mom way before I decided to use them for spices, and I just had them laying around and thought, you know what, these are perfect for spices. But I know you can find a lot of things like these at local thrift stores, or you can just look in your house or at your parents' house or ask friends if they have any leftover containers for you. And if you don't have that, what I also did, and I will show you quickly, is I have these old reused I think it used to be pate or something from my parents, but I reused them to store some leftover spices that I didn't necessarily want in my spice rack, and I just stored them in here. So these type of containers are super easy to reuse. I have some that I painted with chalk paint, and I used chalk to label what they are. They're currently empty. I'm gonna make my own mixes, which I might make a different video about. I was gonna include it in this one, but it would be too long. But yeah, I'll show you how I make these lids in a minute. Also over here I have some things that are still packaged, which I'm finishing, and I have some that are waiting for a container, which I'm cleaning out right now. But besides that, it's all looking pretty good. I have my little recipe for my mixes here, and what I did is I labeled them with a what's called Demo label maker. And I'm not gonna lie, I bought one so I could label with labels like this, because honestly I love labeling. It makes me so happy, but obviously you don't have to do that. What I did before this is I used a Sharpie and I just wrote it on, and yeah, I'll show you that as well in a minute. But yeah, this is the overview, and now let's get into how I achieved all of this. First of all, I will show you how I upcycled these jars by painting the lid with the chalkboard paint. My mom saved a bunch of old pesto jars for me, and I sanded the lids down first. This is quite an important step because this paint needs to adhere properly. Then I applied the first coat of chalkboard paint and let it dry overnight. After they're dry, you have to lightly sand them again and apply a second layer. And then after drying for 24 hours, they're ready to be written on with either just regular chalk or a chalk marker. Regular chalk is more low waste, of course, but I do feel like a chalk marker is more versatile. So it kind of depends on what you use it for. I also have a lot of difficulty writing with regular chalk, and I couldn't read my labels, so for me it wasn't really an option. But yeah, this was a really easy DIY, and it makes your upcycled jars look that little bit cleaner, and I really enjoy that look. Hi! I went shopping for herbs and spices today, and I'm gonna put them in the containers, and I'm not gonna make the mixes yet because it's quite late and I wanna be sharp when I do it. But I'm gonna add them to my containers already and organize them, and yeah, it's gonna look real pretty, hopefully. I went to the zero waste store first, and then what I didn't find I bought at a local spice store, and they do actually let you bring your own containers, but mine were running out. And what they have is basically recyclable, and it's not that much packaging, so I'm just gonna recycle it and call it a day. But you could technically use your own containers, but also because of, you know, COVID-19, I didn't really want to do that because the man fills them himself, and it would just be easier and safer for us to just grab them from the rack and go, and not to be in there for too long as well, because it's a small store. But yeah, it's recycled, so still a win. Here's an overview of what we're working with. So these are the spices I got at the Spice Specialty store. It's a local store for me. And then these are from our local zero waste shop. What is my logic here?
I don't know yet. Okay, we're gonna do the herbs first because my other herbs are in these and I wanna stick to that kind of setup, I guess. Oakley jokely. So my roomie makes this courgette. What is that? Zucchini? Well, it's also right if you say courgette, but it's a zucchini mix and she makes it herself, which is kind of cool. But I have this little shaker for her instead of using it from this, because if you use it on a zucchini, it's much easier to have a shaker. So I hope she likes it. This is why I don't want to do it with Sharpie anymore, because I'm starting to hate my own handwriting. Okay, now I gotta be smart about this. I am overthinking this so badly. I'll start with what I know I want. Right? That seems like a smart decision. After I filled all of the containers, I really wanted to label them with this old school label maker. It is obviously not an important step, but I wanted to do it because my spices are very visibly stored right on my wall, so I did want it to look kind of pretty. If it's stored away, it really doesn't matter that much, like in a cupboard or in a drawer. And I will also use the label maker for a lot of different things because I actually love labeling and I use it all the time. Here you can see how I did it before by writing on the glass with a Sharpie. I removed it by using alcohol. You can also use soap and just rub water, but I do find alcohol is way easier. Then I made all of the labels in Dutch because that's my first language, and for herbs and spices that is much easier for me to understand. I did notice that a lot of Dutch names for spices are super long and that doesn't really work well with the shape of these containers. So some are kind of peeling off, but we're working with it and hopefully they will stick. Most of them stuck pretty well and they won't form any problems, but some were a little sketchy, so hopefully they will stay on there well. I'm not really sure how durable these labels are, but I've seen them used outdoors, so I'm thinking they're pretty durable. You could also use the Sharpie method or the chalkboard marker, but do be careful with wet hands so it doesn't dissolve. You can also use paper labels and tape or glue, or use a regular label maker with paper cartridges to be a little more sustainable, or you can even print out pictures or go crazy and make your own designs. You could also use no label and just kind of guess what you're using. But yeah, just use what you have, or check to see if anyone around you has a label maker, or if you can find anything secondhand. Just do what feels good for you and do what you want to do. But yeah, try and see where you can be that little bit more sustainable. But please don't feel pressure to have that perfect looking zero waste kitchen. It really doesn't matter. It only matters if you love it and you love creating that look and you feel good about that, but don't do it to please others. You don't even have to use the matching containers. I was just lucky to have a lot of the same ones, but as you can see, I have a lot of mismatched ones too. And I wouldn't mind having a few mismatched containers anyway. Just try to make it as sustainable as you can. My motto is just do what feels good and try your best.
I hope you got some inspiration from that and are excited to start making your own zero waste collection, or at least try to make your spices and herbs a little more sustainable. Because honestly, this was a blast and I enjoyed myself so much. I learned a lot about spices actually. I had a really great talk with the owner, or actually two of the stores I went to. I had a great talk with both of them. And I just love connecting to people about things like that. I love learning new things, and that's why I like sharing it with you as well. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And I will see you in my next video. Bye bye!